It's a tale of two cities here as we look at both the best case and the worst case for Bitcoin in this exact moment. And we're going to go over a little bit of short-term time frame analysis as well. Other than that, I'm going to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel, and we can just jump onto this one, start off with the chart view right here. And should we go over the worst case scenario first? The bad news first, baby, the bad news first. And what do we see on the weekly time frame? So this is an indicator that we have broadened up several times in the past. It's been a while since we've last looked at it, but basically this is the pi cycle high and low indicator, which has accurately called the tops and very close to the lows of all prior cycles. But what's more interesting about this as of this exact moment is that it is testing the top side of this moving average, the BTC high long MA right here, that white moving average that my cursor is currently tracing with this red line. There you go. That's the one, the white one. And anytime that we have seen that in the past, that has been an indication of both one, parabolic movement coming, which I mean, this kind of already is parabolic, I guess. And then two, a correction incoming. Now, I do want to show you in the past where we have seen the first test come into this major moving average throughout the history of Bitcoin. And it's been very consistent that on the first test of especially the bull cycle, it has actually been pushed back. It has actually been pushed back specifically, as you can see over here in 2012, to the yellow and green moving averages. And in fact, you're going to notice that that's a commonality between all of these. We see the same thing over here in this sort of mid-cycle rally, the mid-cycle or the double bubble of 2013. Again, just tests around it, boom, rejection, test the yellow and green, and then big move to the upside, absolutely fucking parabolic. Then again, in 2017, here's your first test right here, gets pushed back, bases once again at the yellow and the green, and then up and onwards we go. In fact, this one actually has a double correction. In fact, throughout the cycle, anytime that did come down to those major moving averages, it was a phenomenal basing point for higher lows, actually, but not fully consistent in all cycles, I should say. Anyways, in the next cycle in 2019, you can see in that summer rally, rejected right at the top side. Again, comes back down to the yellow and green moving averages. In this case, actually lives a little bit below them before once again doing the same thing, just going absolutely fucking bull mode, parabolic. Later on in 2020, making new all-time highs. So the analysis here is kind of two-pronged. One, we do see that this is the first test of this particularly bullish cycle towards that white moving average at just around about $71,000 as of the current moment. And we do see that if it is going to be a rejection, thus Bitcoin really coming back down below $60,000, it would very likely be coming towards the low $50,000 territory based off of one, statistical setups that we have looked at in the prior videos, which I won't go over on today's video. And then two, we do see that the yellow and green moving averages are starting to hover around where? Low $50,000 territory. So I do believe that that is the worst case as of right now. How would you confirm a rejection and thus some sideways and downside movement from here? I'd really need to see Bitcoin closing below about $58,000 on a weekly time frame. See something like that? Okay, yes, lower 50s is possible. But until that does happen, I do still express that Bitcoin actually does have a pretty good chance to bust through right here based off of, again, these statistical setups that we have seen, namely on the daily and higher term time frames in this past week, which do suggest a slightly higher probability of a move to the upside from here, but over time that is. Of course, if we go to CME's chart, however, it's a bit of a different look, seeing as it does have, not as much history, but you can see that Bitcoin has, one, actually boosted above the long moving average, and then two, is now basing around it. In fact, twice now we have seen. So in this case, as long as Bitcoin is closing above that white moving average, I would look at this as an indication that, hey, Bitcoin is it's probably going to try for a low right here. And as our other models have kind of suggested, more sideways within this region is going to really start to look good for the BULAs, but it can take some time naturally. And the more time that does take, in fact, the more that these moving averages down here are going to catch up. So it's really just a game. It's always a fucking game, I guess. But my point is that now we have just another sort of completely different look on things, not based off of the models that we've been looking at over the past week, that do suggest essentially the same thing, actually. Well, not necessarily upside targets, but ultimately suggesting, similar areas of interest, especially in the more present term. So I do believe that these are good areas to be aware of for the short term. And if Bitcoin were to, more importantly, not saying that it's going to, but if it were to come down to these two moving averages here, traditionally speaking, that has been a pretty damn good area for at least a major bounce. And in many cases, in basically all prior bull markets, those have been macro cycle higher lows, or major cycle higher lows, I should say. We even see that Bitcoin basically did put in a higher low around them earlier not earlier this year, but in late 2023. So it does still seem like those are getting respected, does still seem like those hold relevancy. And well, until it stops working, fair enough, it's good enough for me. All right, now that we've gone through that, I do want to get into some HPDR bands action over here. Yesterday we did say that, hey, over the weekend, declining volatility is going to favor the boo laws according to this setup right here, very likely a test towards the median. And Bitcoin actually did test the median yesterday. Yeah, just under $66,000. I thought that was a little bit of a long shot to do all in one day, but fair enough. At the end of the day, that target was met. In this case, we do see that there is potential for a little bit of a higher low going on right here on the daily time frame. What we need in order to confirm this, we need to see back above and closing above Friday's high. If that does happen, I would look for a quick move to $69,000. Doesn't really mean that Bitcoin's ready to bulldoze its way towards prior highs and new all-time highs after that. I do still think that Bitcoin, whether you're bullish or bearish, is probably going to spend some time within this region right here. And more time spent within this region is going to favor the boo laws long term. It's just, more time means literally more time. I mean, like a month or two would not be that crazy, in my opinion, if boo laws are going to take over from this region. The other, of course, the other side of things would be, of course, we do see below that $58,000 number, or is it more like 59? Sorry, it might be more like $59,000 on a weekly closing basis. And at that point, yeah, have to be looking at low 50s. I don't really think that Bitcoin's actually going to be stopping in the mid 50s like many people seem to think. I think it's either here, kind of front running those people, or decently below that, blowing out those people. It does look like, based off of some of the other things that we have seen, it's actually some good information that it actually very well could put in a low here. So what would confirm a low here if Bitcoin were to, really pop back up and start trending to the upside? Well, I need to see a weekly closure basically above $72,000 at this point. That would look pretty fucking good. Even a daily closure above $72,000 would look really, really good. Until that happens, sideways is the name of the game, most likely. Let's go check out on I can't speak. Losing my fucking voice right now. Also, your time is coming, by the way. You better get ready. Anyways, the daily time frame over here, we can see that daily stochastic momentum is still positioned to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below 63,550. Right now, trading almost $1,000 above that pivot. So, if we do see that flip up, I would probably expect this bounce to try for a little bit more of a continuation, maybe even hitting up to $69,000 if the prior condition was met that we just spoke about on the prior chart. Perhaps led by this, but again, for reference sake, weekly time frame, it's going to be a fresh cross to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below 72.3. So this is, in my opinion, this is corrective as best, and realistically, this I do believe is rather like, it's rather normal and rather reasonable. Bitcoin's been straight up, for months now. It's like, could it be that maybe, just maybe, we see some sideways price action? I don't know, man. That sounds like a bunch of bearish bullshit to me. It's up only. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Elsa has a very important message to you, so why don't you just shout it out over here, and we can get ready to sign off. Go. Yes.
Fuck you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I'm sorry for that very rude and not nice finish sign off. That said, take care, much love, and fuck you, and I'll see you tomorrow.